end suddenly.
It does. What?
What is this? Evan, don't ruin my fun. Is that just
dirt?
It was just dirt. It was dirt.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here this Friday. Welcome to Labs Advisors Live. And oh boy, do we have a awesome show for you today. Behind the scenes, you don't see them yet, but we have an expert panel filled with RTTs and Maps technology coaches from all over the country here to give us their biggest takeaways and the things that they got from family reunion this year. Kimber, Joe, how you doing today?
I'm excited to unpack this family reunion. It was full of good stuff.
Oh yeah. We're going to talk about some the format changes they did this year that we loved. We're going to talk about the big takeaways from Vision, Save the Company, keynote addresses, and all the breakouts that were there. There's a lot to cover. And before we dive into it, just a couple of quick housekeeping items, one of which is StreamYard.com/Facebook.
Yeah.
StreamYard.com/Facebook.
We don't want to have to make fun of you.
Yes. If you comment on the video on Facebook, wherever you are seeing it, we are in multiple locations. We will absolutely highlight your comment. If you don't give StreamYard prior permission, it shows up as Facebook user, and we will make fun of you, right? That is how we like to do things.
Like
so,
here.
Speaking of which, was hoping you had the intro music. Unknown Facebook user. Go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give StreamYard the permissions. But without further ado, let us intro our guests. We're just going to bring them on one at a time, starting with the world famous RTT. She's here to make you smarter. It's Brooke Silva.
Hi guys, I'm here to make you so much smarter.
Brooke, real quick, who are you and what do you do? And oh my gosh, for those that don't know you, what should we know?
Oh, that would be wow. Brooke Silva, RTT New England. I can turn my accent on and off as needed. I've been in the role almost a year now, and I just had the best family reunion that I have ever been to. Can you tell by my voice?
It sounds like, yeah.
I love it. And our next guest joining us, another RTT. It is Magic Mike himself.
Oh,
he wants us to mute ourselves.
Note master.
Already have about 450 views on the notes from this year.
We love your notes.
Yes.
Everybody who has experienced your notes loves your notes.
Absolutely. Mike, tell us real quick who you are, what you do, those that don't know who you are, and also where they might find these wonderful notes. What are these?
Yeah, so I'm Mike Hillary. I'm the regional tech trainer for the Mid-American region. So that's Illinois and parts of Indiana. Also a Maps technology coach. I'm a labs advisor. I'm all over the place. I have apparently I've built a reputation around taking great notes. I think this started back in high school. But if you need them, they're at bit.ly/Mike's Notes FR22.
And now, did you take all those notes yourself, or I saw Penny taking some of them?
It's not Penny. It was Otter.ai helped me out on some of these.
Okay.
So you'll see there's one that is 93 pages of just pretty much pure transcript.
And if you are watching on YouTube, please ignore the comment where I absolutely got the link wrong. Just add FR22 to the end of that, and you'll get right where you're going. All right. We also have, and we're just going to keep bringing in the RTTs. Oh my goodness. We have Jordan Larson here.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you doing, buddy?
So good. Here in cold Utah after a week of 85 degrees in Orlando.
Oh yeah. I had the shock of flying an hour and a half into below freezing weather from 85 degrees, and I do not know how that happened.
Yeah, no, luckily it's not below freezing here, but it is like 31 today.
Absolutely. So, same as everybody else, who you are, what do you do, for those who don't know you?
Yeah, I'm Jordan Larson. I'm the regional tech trainer here in the lovely state of Utah. I get to work with Miss Kimber Walton on a regular basis, so super enjoy it here.
So he enjoys it.
We'll keep it on trucking with the RTTs. We are going to bring on Sarah Herda. Boom.
Yay.
There she is.
Hi, Sarah.
Wonderful.
Hello.
And you may have missed this one on the marketing material, guys. So you're watching this is a surprise guest because Evan, as usual, is a fumbling fool when it comes to planning, and we made it work. But Sarah, I'm so glad that you could join us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, I am the regional technology trainer for the MINO region, which is Michigan and Northern Ohio. And I live in the state of Georgia, so it is currently 82 degrees, which it is not in Michigan or Northern Ohio.
Oh,
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Let's bring in our last RTT, Mr. Jack Crutchfield Jr.
Real star family reunion.
Nah, stop it. Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, wherever you're joining. I'm Jack Crutchfield Jr. I'm the regional technology trainer for the Maryland and DC regions, and I'm just now getting my voice back.
Boom. Love that. And then last, but certainly not least, Maps technology coach and all-around awesome human being, we have Sam Jackson.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, Sam, tell us a little bit who you are, what you do, and everybody doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Sam Jackson. So I am the Director of Innovation and Technology for the Georgia Legacy Group. So I got 3 market centers down in North Atlanta. That's a weird way to say that. And Maps Tech Coach as well, and Labs Advisor. We're going to keep adding titles, I think.
Yeah, let's just keep adding more for you.
letters and titles.
I'm just condensing my job title to just technology and stuff.
They'll call it guru anyway. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, nobody wants to be a guru. They're all looking for one.
Or, a good one might just be the word, just put wizard in the job title and just let people guess. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us in this special edition. I'm super excited to get us started. We're going to roll into our first topic of the day, which has to do with the format change of FR this year. We saw something a little bit different. I've heard the feedback around it. My feedback on it was incredible. On day one, we had these tracks. And we'll just kind of start top left with Jordan, kind of just roll clockwise around. Jordan, what did you think of the format changes? What track were you on? What all did you get? What was your big takeaways?
Yeah, I loved the format changes. I thought it made it way simpler for all of the agents in my region who are like normally trying to run across the convention center 17 different times throughout the day. I personally sat in the leadership track. So it was fun seeing all the different speakers. Several RTTs got to take the stage during that time. And just the value that poured out in that, and probably my biggest takeaway is just we're going from kind of that defensive, we've been in first position as a company for a long time, and we're getting back to the offensive of how do we go disrupt ourselves before anyone else disrupts us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Did anybody else, I remember I mentioned that we were going to kind of possibly do this way. Did anybody go through any of the agent tracks or expansion tracks? Anybody here go through those, or do we all go through leadership?
I know I went through leadership, and then
Same.
Kimber and I talked.
I went to the single agent.
Kimber, what were some awesome items from that single agent track?
I always love Jay Papasan, so I'm just gonna put it out there right now so you guys all know, like, he's my #1 celebrity. And I always just follow his name on the agendas for family reunion. And what was nice is our track. So I think how they had it set up was that everybody was kind of rotating rooms, which was nice because as the agent, you can sit in the same spot and everyone comes to you is what it felt like. And Jay and Gary just had a really good conversation that was focused on the fundamentals for agents. One of the things Gary said, and we get so off track with this, he just said, if you do the activities, the goal, it will happen. It will happen. And the thing that's getting in your way is you may not be doing the activities. So they had great panels that came out and talked about what those activities are, what we can do for our follow-up, social media tips, everything like that. But it was an awesome rapid fire. It was 5 hours, but it felt like rapid fire because there was just so much content. So
yeah, awesome. Wonderful. Did anybody else have any thoughts around? I know this will probably be the shorter topic of the bunch because I know a lot of us kind of went to some of the same things. Any big takeaways from any of the other tracks that were present, or also just kind of what you thought of the experience at large?
I had great feedback from my agents who went, and what they did was they didn't go where they are; they went where they aspired to be, and that was the game changer for them, right? If you're a single agent now, how do you get to single agent with an admin? Or how do you expand your team? Or how do you get into expansion? It was just, in the past, I kind of didn't know where to go sometimes. And this year, I think it was so clear on where you needed to be that people were excited, and the not running around and running out of time, right? Or you get somewhere and you're locked out because it's full. That was done. So they loved it. They loved the tracks.
Love it. Awesome. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that before we dive into some meat and potatoes of today's discussion?
Well, I think the biggest thing that came out of the leadership one was validation for the market center tech trainer. When you looked, they did a slide specifically on the keys to market center success. And the number one thing on the list was hire a great market center tech trainer.
Yep.
Which tells me that if you want to really take advantage of the market that has the largest opportunity in the history of real estate, you need the right players on your team.
And what was number 2 on that slide?
Make
them part of your leadership team.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my mind, the rest of the slide was the ingredients of what makes a great market center tech trainer.
Yep.
If we gave you the recipe. If you need it, it's in the notes.
I was about to ask, like, what were those ingredients?
You want to know? I have this slide. Like, I can tell you some of them. Mainly, it was engage with your RTT.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're here for a reason, and it's to help you.
Which means
understand our
sport,
technology,
right?
To the point where you can consult on it.
Boom.
And then my favorite, this was, make sure you hold your training calendar accountable to include technology in every single class. We're not teaching tech, we're teaching real estate and including tech.
Which was super evident in Steve DeLaviaga's conversation around how their folks are dominating the algorithms for the aggregators, right? Because they understand what it takes to follow up with a lead, what it takes to deliver value so quickly that they choose only to work with you after 5.7 seconds.
Love it. Love that. Okay, so with that all being said, let us get into kind of the meat and potatoes of today. We'll start with what happened on the very next day of Family Reunion, which, of course, was the vision speech and the state of the company, which were combined this year. As always, I think the vision speech was unparalleled in quality when it comes to looking at large-scale numbers and getting insights from those. But we're going to start at the bottom right of the screen with Sam Jackson, and we'll go in the clockwise fashion. Key takeaways from both state of the company and vision speech, what you thought and what you got from it.
Oh man, this may be a very unpopular opinion to start with, so I'm glad you started with me, Evan. Appreciate that. It's really funny because I think it's like my 6th or 7th family reunion, and I think like everyone else, I get my pen out and like I get ready to take notes, and I take tons and tons of notes, and then I'll take out my phone and I'll take screenshots or pictures of the screen. Nothing's ever changed. Right. When I look at the slides, like nothing's ever changed in the last like 6 or 7 years. Like we do get a little bit smarter with the numbers, and I take 2 or 3 things and go, okay, I can use this. Let's talk about this for like listing presentations. But I think the key thing is like if you don't take action and start implementing those things in your business, it's all the same year after year after year. But it makes me smarter, right? Like I think every time I go to that session, it makes me 100% smarter, and I love it. It's my favorite part.
Love that. What about state of the company? Were there anything out of that? Because then we saw Mark and Carl take the stage together. And I'll be 100% honest. I was kind of in and out for that one with people hurriedly trying to figure out lunch plans. So I missed some of it. So I'm counting on you guys here to give me the rest of that content that I may not have gotten.
So we've stood up 18 businesses in the last 12 months as a part of Keller Williams.
KW Perks blew my mind.
Yeah.
KW Perks is going to make our agent lives so much better, and anyone in our market centers. And it just goes to prove that we care so much about our agents and their lives and all the businesses that were spun up to show that. So that was exciting for me, knowing I was going to be able to come back and speak about it to my region at a high level, because I just don't want health care or health expenses to be the reason somebody cannot be successful in this world.
Yeah, Brooke, expand on KW Perks just for anybody who maybe wasn't there or doesn't know what that is.
Absolutely. So if you go to kwperks.com, they'll have a lot more information, but basically they've leveraged another company to make it so that anyone at KW can tap into healthcare, indemnity, different types of insurances at I believe it was a 40% discount. Please check me on my math if I'm wrong.
You save about that much versus the public exchanges. Yeah.
Right. So if you're in a state where you have to have health insurance like mine, or you are fined on your taxes, being a 1099 employee is often tricky and expensive when trying to find health insurance, and a barrier to some agents being able to step into real estate full time. We just took away a barrier. Huge one. So I can't wait to see how that one changes people's lives.
Love that too. Let's hear from Jack Crutchfield Jr. around Vision, say the company, and then we'll get to Sarah next as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just continue on with KW Perks. I think that'll be a great conversation when we're having recruiting and retention conversations, right? That's like one of the best keys. I'm like, wow, my mind was blown on that. So now I'm thinking, how does that fit into the current population and how we're growing from there? And then from the vision speech, just because I know that I wasn't aware of this, especially back in the time of the early 80s. I remember that was around the time that my dad bought like his second or third home. And I was thinking about that slide where it says the mortgage rates from, I think it was around 16%. And now how it's gone down over time. I'm like, wow, like how did they do it? And they were still pumping out and selling homes at that time. I thought that was very key. And then just knowing what the numbers are from 2020 all the way until now, and then how much the pandemic has really affected in great ways and bad ways for our economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And and honestly, this COVID slide's having a lot of hope. Not that we are a company that studies pandemics or has any real authority beyond the subject, but seeing the data they presented did look, it was very calming in a lot of ways to kind of see it spread out like that. Sarah Herda.
Well, from the vision, from all the stats on the slides, one thing that really stood out for me, because I know at the beginning of the pandemic, it was a big question, where is the market going to go? And the fact that distressed sales are a non-issue. And I just loved seeing that in there because I know that that was something that kept coming up. But for me, from that day, Levi Rogers Group, joining us, number one team from RE/MAX, KW Military, the head of KW Military. That was just, I don't know that anybody had a dry eye. That was just an incredible, incredible story. So something that I would definitely recommend looking into on the video if you haven't watched it yet, because it was extremely impactful. And I wrote down a phrase that he said, we look in the mirror before we look through the glass. And I took that away as like my number one thing is we look in the mirror before we look through the glass. So look at ourselves first, look at what we're doing, no matter what it is, before we look through the glass.
I love that. Was there a dry eye in the house?
No. And his top guy, Pedro, I believe was his name.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got great job security. So, they were hit with an IED and all this stuff. And he pulled Levi out and brought him to safety to be able to, get healed and whatever else. And he's like, now the top guy on the Levi Rogers Group. And he's like, I got great job security. I'm going nowhere. It was cute.
I love that they're still working together like that too. That was really inspiring. And that line they used was that we have Pedro give him the bad news because there's no way he's going to fire Pedro.
That's right. And then they have an incredible goal. And I might not be correct on this, but I believe it was 30,000, bringing into the military group. So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah. Do we know what, were there any details shared? I can't remember precisely. Sarah, maybe you do, around like what the KW military branch is going to be. Did they mention anything around that?
Not that I remember, no.
No, I was more focused on the story. His story is so fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a good guy.
Jordan, how about you, my friend? Vision, state of the company, locking arms and arms.
I mean, I kind of agree with Sam almost. That I keep looking at these slides and I'm like, oh, it is following the same exact trend lines. A lot of the data and information is the same. It adjusts a little, it moves slightly. Some of the biggest things that I took away from it was one, when Gary said we're starting to replicate what we saw in 2001 through 2005. We're starting to replicate what we saw is we're not in a bubble. I think that's the question as realtors and people in the real estate industry we get constantly. Is it a bubble? Is it a bubble? Is it a bubble? And Gary was just like, it's not a bubble. But are we starting to blow a bubble? Maybe. So that was really kind of my biggest takeaway is we're starting to outpace that trend line to 4%. We reached the trend line and we're starting to climb above that. So unless we can curb inflation and do some things to kind of pull the market back into check, we are going to start to see a bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that too, because that's always the thought in everybody's mind with these prices the way they are. The sticker shock that a lot of people are seeing with these homes is like, hey, are we? Is it a good time? Which is good for everybody to be thinking and checking for that kind of stuff and seeing that data, putting a lot of that to rest. Mike.
Well, so along with that sticker shock, yes, prices may be way up, but like as a percentage compared to the year I was born, you're paying on average 24% less on your payment, dollar for dollar for your house. It's the only thing that hasn't gone up double digits in the inflation calculator is your mortgage payment, which is just so wild of how low mortgage rates are.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody has said anything yet about Carl and Mark up there. Anybody else get to hold hands with somebody special or lock arms? Did anybody else have the same level of comfort that Mark King had on stage?
I know, like I'm a touchy-feely, right? I'm the RTT that's going to run and hug you. Like I'm jumping on you and hugging you.
Oh.
I know a lot of people got a little uncomfortable in that moment, but I got to tell you, there's a picture of all of us locked arms as RTTs down those rows. And that sends such a picture, right? That sends such a visual back about what we're trying to do. As weird as it was, it also felt great. Like it felt united about a mission.
I liked what they said. I think the term was irrational generosity. That's what Mark had brought up there. I just loved that.
Oh, are we not going to bring up the shirt Gary is wearing? Nobody's talking about it.
Oh, I love that shirt when he goes, buy dirt.
Buy dirt. Because, I mean, here's the reality. The only way to curb this demand a bit is to increase the supply to match it. And so we're finally above the long-term average of 1 million home starts a year. Like 2021, it was like 1.12 million. So here's the deal. Like chances are there is a plot of land on the outskirts of town that the car dealers have their eyes on for their next place.
And I think Levi Rogers said it best too. He's like, why are we not building wealth using our craft that we inspire, instruct our clients to do? Why are we not doing that? I think that's also been a common theme over the past few vision speeches, is that consistently coming back up, which is why are you not making money selling real estate yourself? Right, buying and selling.
We complain a lot about like there's a lack of inventory. There's a lack of inventory. Then let's be the ones to go fix it.
Yeah.
It was just phrased differently, right? Like Gary used to go on stage and just tell us your first question on a listing appointment is, should I list this or should I buy it? Right? That conversation just changed a little bit of like, let's just go buy dirt. But either way, like you're right, we're not taking advantage. Gary keeps telling us like, invest in your craft.
I did buy a bunch of dirt on Amazon, and I think I got ripped off because it does not appear to be appreciating in price at all.
Is it the Miracle Grow bags?
Yeah. You can't buy generic. You have to buy,
You have to buy specific dirt that is
and I just threw
you have to do your homework. Just
my wife informed me manure is not dirt, is what I was told. So
no,
like, oh, okay.
different.
Gotcha,
Is that meta dirt? Is that what that is?
Meta dirt. And I just threw the link in the comments for the official shirt, because that thing, I have it on pre-order and I want the one that man was wearing. That's going to be my shirt of the year.
Absolutely. And I remember there was a lot of agents in our region, in the Maryland, D.C. region, that even at events, I would run into them. They're like, oh, so how you're enjoying family reunion? What was your biggest takeaway? And they're like, yeah, I went to KW Land and my mind has changed. I need to go back home and restructure my business. I don't know what I was thinking. And I think I heard that like 6 times.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think, Brooke, you had one more thing that you kind of wanted to add on to the discussion around where buyers are finding their agents before we move on to keynote on next day.
I love this slide on how buyers find their agent, because it's still referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative, or it was someone they used first. Everything else was down the list. So it just goes to show that the relationships we're creating, that we're cultivating, and then restarting and helping them reinvest or sell property are so important. We need our sphere. We need our SOI. And the percentages are huge, right? 47% of people were referred by a friend, family, or neighbor. That's a big number. So if you take anything out of that slide, it's what are you doing to dig into your sphere and stay top of mind, right? Stay top of mind with your sphere.
Yeah, and Brooke, that's a departure from where it was going, because in 2020 it was only 40%, 40%, which means when we all ran into some uncertainty, guess what we did? We leaned on our community. We leaned on our sphere.
Care calls, right? We started caring about the people in our world, and we stopped just speaking real estate, and we started cultivating relationships again, and our world changed. And I know I'm better for it. I am better for those care calls and having conversations with my sphere that I would not have had.
Oh, the Ford model alone has just helped me not be as awkward as a person, like even in real life. I'm like, forget cold calling. Like, I now have a script for like everyday life and dialogue for everyday life. I love it.
It's so good.
That needs a t-shirt right there. Yeah. How to not be awkward. Ford.
Ford.
I don't know.
By Sam Jackson.
Yeah, someone's going to show up to the office at an F-150 and be like, I'm not awkward anymore, guys. It's all been taken care of. Thank you, Sam Jackson. All right. I think that wraps up vision and state of the company. Kimber, what are we talking about next?
So we're talking about the keynote. Sean Accor. I was calling him Sean Anchor for a couple days, so I have to admit that. So I'm just going to start out that I had a lot of gratitude for this speaker being put in front of us as salespeople, because everything is all about your last sale, your numbers, your volume, how many you did, how many calls you made, how many appointments, which it should be. Those are our activities that we track. And it's an easy way to get lost and lose the eye on the prize, your purpose, your why. So something that he said very close to the beginning of his talk that really just like hit me like a ton of bricks was people with potential can lose connection to their lives. And there is a lot of potential and talent in any room that KW agents and leadership are in. And that really, really resonated with me. And then he also added that there's really no connection between happiness and success, which I think is another myth of our industry, is if I close this many million in real estate, then I'll be happy. It'll be, smooth sailing. And we all know that's a lie. And we know it because as soon as we start to get those big commission checks, nothing has changed really about the fundamental. And so I hope that just like filled everyone's bucket and soul for what it should really be about and give us a little bit of energy to continue doing what we're doing, but with a little bit more purpose. So I loved it. Any other thoughts? Jordan, I was sitting next to you, I think. What was your
We were pretty close. My biggest thing, was I the only one that sat there thinking like, oh my gosh, bold law, bold law, bold law, bold law, bold law. But I went back to like overall, like Gary's always said, happiness happens on the way to fulfillment. And Sean Aker said, happiness will come when if you say happiness will come when, you just put happiness on the other side of some sort of goal. And then when you achieve that goal and the happiness doesn't come, you're going to just continue to put it on the other side of some goal. And you keep kicking happiness down the road. So learn to be happy now on your way to achieving the goal. And that just was like a slightly different perspective for me on that same concept that Gary said for years. Like, happiness happens on the way to fulfillment, which I thought was incredible.
Well, for
And
me, go
oh,
ahead.
yeah, no, Sarah.
I was going to say that I don't know if I'm the only little sister who can completely relate to his poor little sister somehow mysteriously dumping from the bunk bed, you know, with her unicorn and her already broken arm. But anyway, totally relate to that one. For me, that exercise that he did with us was so powerful. I mean, granted, I was sitting next to a pretty phenomenal person who I connected with all weekend, and I'm kind of thinking I need to Zoom with to get back into this state. But Jack and I were sitting next to each other. We had so much fun with that exercise when he had us, you know, person A had to really be as emotionless as possible and had to, you know, I mean, for me, it was my typical, what goes on in my head. It's like breathe and smile, except it was like no expression, just keep breathing, no expression. And when Jack smiles, I'm telling you, his whole face lights up and it is so hard not to. And having that as something relating to when someone yawns and then everyone else yawns, or if someone's frustrated. I did have to mention though, when I went to the airport to go home, I really wanted to do his little sidebar experiment where you walk up to a group of people and you just start like tapping your feet and checking your watch and being like, oh my God, and seeing how fast everyone around you gets extremely jittery and frustrated. But then I thought I wanted a nice flight, so I didn't do it.
So did anybody start that challenge that he put out to do the gratitude every day? Has anyone set a goal for that that's on this pound? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And already deployed, smart plan, out the door.
My favorite part of that part too, to that point, Kimber, like with that exercise, because I've done the gratitude exercises before, and I think we've done those on Labs Advisors calls. But like one of the things that got me is that he did it with Amex, and the first time they did it, they had no results, and it was kind of like, oh, that wasn't what we expected. And kind of changing up the formula slightly, coming up with 3 new gratitudes every day about what happened in the last 24 hours, and that did yielding results makes a whole lot of sense because we've all been on calls where gratitude start and it's all like, oh, family, house, safety, health, right? And it's like, sure, but having to actually think and scan for that information was phenomenal.
Yeah, I loved it. And, you know, he often says without action, knowledge is meaningless. So how are you going to get 1% better every day, right? So we went to a family reunion. We learned all these great things. We have all these people in front of you trying to pour into you. But it's up to you to take that next step. Take the knowledge, put it into action.
And a big message of his, like mostly at the end that he brought up and really like tied together, is that we need to be doing this with other people. This isn't the Mike Hillary mission, right? Mike Hillary's success will be tenfold if he surrounds himself with other people that have the same mission, have the same drive, beliefs, whatever it is. The not alone thing is really powerful, especially for somebody that's very social and never likes to be alone.
Yeah. And specifically, something to try at home today: stare warmly into a stranger's eyes.
Okay. There will be a stranger at my home. I don't know if I.
Oh yeah, good point. Jack,
when you think about the engagement, when you think about the engagement, just really super fast of when you do give that gratitude to 3 people, or even if it was 1 person, but with something that just happened recently, it all of a sudden resonates with that person and it gives them that sense of what they did or what happened is meaningful. And then it brings them that feeling of wanting to do more. And when we get that, where everyone has that feeling of, oh, wow, someone noticed, or wow, I've got to keep going. It just, I don't know, it makes everyone better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the key quotes, and he just kind of said it in passing, but I did mark it down. But he said, if we're not just our genes, then we could be changed radically. Meaning, like, if we're not just stuck to hereditary trends, and we can be the key component to break a lot of generational curses, especially when it comes to happiness, we have that ability. And also the experiment about the hill and firefly that he mentioned, about if you think, oh, this is steeper, but if you have the right people around you, then it doesn't seem as steep anymore. It's almost like what we say in both garbage in, garbage out, is just be aware of the company you keep around you, and that's going to be very, very pivotal to your growth.
I agree. Does anyone want to elaborate or remember the Tetris effect that he talked about?
I think the lesson I got from that was play more Tetris often.
I kind of wanted to play Tetris after,
okay.
For sure. Yeah,
right. The patterns, right? How many of you sat on the floor in front of your Nintendo playing that until your feet went numb?
Or you dreamed about it.
Age group. I know, right?
My freshman year of college, I played that on my roommate's computer, and then I'd be walking around campus, and I swear I could see like where shapes could fit, and I was like, "Oh, I've been doing this way too much."
I thought what was timely about that is he said, if you get locked in a way of thinking, right, you're going to look at the things that are changed, and you're going to either avoid it or make fun of it. And when has anything, I mean, the industry right now, from the time we had a conversation, how many years ago, about where we were at with the industry changing with Zillow and other companies, to now, it doesn't even look the same. And so the same trend is going to continue to happen. And I just think using that in the back of my mind, as far as we tend to look at stuff and just go, I don't want that, or ha ha ha. And really we need to look at it a different way.
Yeah, because no Tetris game is the same.
Mm-mm.
No Tetris game is the same.
Nope.
And we get ourselves in these negative repetitive patterns where, I'm watching all these top agents. Why can't I get there? It's the what you focus on expands, right? And we can just change our pattern and know that every day is a Tetris, right? Every day we're going to look at something different, and we're going to have to take all the knowledge and the blocks we have and see where it fits. Create new patterns, new wavelengths of thinking.
I want to keep this conversation going because I can't wait to tell everybody about all of the new innovations in Tetris that there have been, which, by the way, I'm not kidding. You can Google this right now. There are new innovations in competitive Tetris happening now, right, that you can go look up. But Jordan, I just think I just cut you off. Jordan will do your thoughts on that, and then we're going to move into the next topic.
No, I was just going to say, finding ways to change that programming and to look at it like a game of Tetris. I love the challenge he gave of share gratitude with somebody every day for 21 days. After day 8, you're going to run out of the people that come easy or simple to say thank you to. And that's where you have to look for that hidden network. So that's a challenge I'm taking on, and I'm adding a little bit to it. If I want to write that person a handwritten note and snail mail it to them, I know, believe it or not, RTT sending mail, I'm a little concerned, but I'm going to do it. And I'm excited to see the growth and the change in perspective that comes from it.
Love it. Awesome. That's a great thought to wrap that up on. Let's move into kind of the event overall, but breakouts in specifically too, if you want to call it a specific one. But the main goal of this section is to really, I think we all experience this to some level, no matter how veteran you are at going to family reunions. There's just so much that's going on. You come home, your TL is wicked excited to get 15 new systems and processes implemented tomorrow. And really, at the end of the day, we know there's a book that was written that kind of helps us kind of solve this problem, which is, hey, let's focus on that one thing that we are taking away from the event. And what are we implementing now? If you've already started, that's awesome. Mike, awesome. Thank you for showing. Is that a hardcover version of the one thing?
Yes. If you take the book jacket off, it's actually a domino underneath.
Oh,
Oh my
Interesting.
gosh.
Nice
Oh,
Did I just teach you that on this call?
Easter egg.
That.
Wait a minute.
Everybody's
Now
grabbing their
Everybody
phone.
grabbing their
No, you just
Right.
derailed everything.
Yeah.
Mind
I
blown.
thought you guys were in tech and you had
Oh,
the
is that
dope
the
thing.
is that the RTT gift? Oh.
Wow.
Does it do the
How-
same? Does it do the same for the
Okay,
Kindle
that's
edition?
well.
Sure enough, there you go. How about that? That's
No.
awesome. So we're going to go again on clockwise fashion. We're going to start top left with Sarah Herta for that. What is the one most important thing that you're taking away from the sessions that you're implementing? Or if you want to also highlight something that's an agent in your area is implementing, that would be awesome as well. Sarah, take it away.
Well, I have my favorite for many reasons, my favorite session. And it really was that, the top 3 things to take away from Command Breakout. Because as a tech trainer, it was obviously not only spotlighting tech, but also how people are using it and being ridiculously successful. And then the RTTs who were on that platform went through and showed very, very easy steps on how to complete exactly what they were doing to accomplish it. So for me, that one was my favorite. May or may not have some favorite people who were up on the stage, which helps. So, that was good. And how many of them are on the call? So anyway, but that was really my favorite, just being honest.
Love that. I love that. Let's keep it tracking. Jordan Larson.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I went into family reunion really with a focus of networking, getting to know and connecting with some of these people who I've had a 2-year Zoom relationship with, or maybe connected through a phone call and things like that. And for me, I just went in with that kind of concept of your network is your net worth. And coming out of it, super grateful and blessed and excited about the conversations I was able to have, not necessarily even in the breakout sessions, but in the hallways and at the booths and one-on-one, and getting to hear and meet people and speak with people like Brady Sandall with KW Luxury and the commercial directors and all of those people. So really excited about what's to come with some of those different divisions and segments.
Yeah, seeing all the professional services that they're offering, I mean, it's so clear. I think now more than ever, because in the past family reunions, we kind of heard about plans to implement, and now we have companies that are currently in business and operating with us and more plans to implement. Seeing that tool belt grow over time has been something really special, especially now that we can really engage with a lot of the tools. It's not just, hey, here's what we're going to do. This is, hey, here's what we're doing right now. Was really great.
Absolutely.
Brooke Silva, come make us smarter. How are you getting smarter this week?
Smarter. I really enjoyed how we highlighted so many fantastic agent stories. And not only did we take their stories, we showed you how to duplicate it. How do you implement those things? And we were not implementing things that were 30-step processes. This was something everybody could leave that room and implement right now, which is what I love, right? I want you to be able to take it away immediately and deploy it. Go ahead. We spoke a language everybody understood, right? We weren't speaking tech, we were speaking real estate. And that's what I want so many people to know, is that we don't have tech breath, right? We want to understand your businesses. We want to share your stories, and we just want to get you better at it. And then the other thing that blew my mind is the new commercial. Like the way commercial is going, get ready. I was blown away. I went to a lot of their sessions. I got to sit in the booth with those guys. There's segments, right? Segments just.
Is there anything in particular that you want to showcase? Because I'll be honest, I did not. I missed any of the commercials that was in there. I did not happen to see it.
Yeah, so commercial is not always the fastest, right? Yeah, residential moves a lot faster than commercial, but the way that they're working commercial to be so relationship based, because it is, but now they have a platform with RealNext that will support them, just like our residential agents have Command. And just how it connects and everything. And I got to sit with one of the developers, and I was just blown away about how approachable they are and how they feel about their commercial agents like we feel about our agents. And it was just it was fun conversations. and they're excited. Cynthia, Alicia, John Letourneau, they're just so excited to pour into the commercial community.
Yeah, absolutely. We lost Mike for a moment there. Well, I'm sure we'll have him back very soon. Oh, there he's just in time. Look at that. Amazing.
I'm back. The real star of the show is not super happy. If you get a chance, catch Building a $25 million plus Sphere. That breakout. It's a really long title. But there's one story in there that really stuck out to me. So by spending more quality time with less people, you can drive a higher result. There's an agent, Meg Dady, who you may remember from Pivot Shift Ahead calls. She did a low-cost photo event for her closest people. She had 40 families come. That turned into 20 transactions because some of them moved and others gave referrals. So she got $400,000 in GCI from a single $4,000 event, just by following up with them.
I want to hear more of Penny's thoughts on the matter, to be honest.
Oh, she'll be vocal if I leave the mic on.
Very opinionated.
She was the star of the show.
I agree, Penny.
I actually thought, 'cause I was following Mike's social feed during Family Reunion, and at one point I had to ask him, I was like, was Penny actually here? How in the world, just real quick question randomly here, how did you get so many photos of Penny? Did you take those all before you came to FR? Was just post them throughout the week? Okay.
We had a production meeting on the Saturday before, and we listed out the 12 things Penny does. And throughout the day, I thought of more things because of the Tetris effect. And we ended up with 23 different pictures and videos of Penny showing up at Family Reunion.
Yeah.
There's snow in every picture.
Yeah.
So I hoped that was the tell.
Sam Jackson, it's up. You're up. Excuse me.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this one honestly. It's a little bit of a cheat because I don't think it was open to everyone. But Mike was there. We had the opportunity to go to a private mastermind with Gary to kind of kick off Family Reunion, which is really, really cool. And I'm going to butcher his name, but we had the head of innovation for Disney on. His name was Duncan Wardell. I'm probably butchering that a lot. But he walked us through a lot of the innovation that like Disney thinks about. And that was the biggest thing for me. I think the coolest thing they kind of shared is when someone wants to be innovative, they're bringing good ideas back to you or your market center. A lot of times our immediate reaction is to say no. And we went through this really, really cool exercise where we just said yes and. So when someone brought us an idea to us, and this is kind of like a one-on-one segment here, you would say yes and you would add to it. And the energy that it changed around that of instead of immediately putting that wall and saying no and building upon someone else's ideas was like, I don't know, Mike, you might be able to chime in on this. It was just, it was a huge aha and a takeaway for me that I was like, I need to implement that. That's the number one thing I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. When you're in the idea stage, the biggest killer is no but.
Yeah.
Right. That is the number one way to stifle innovation in your company, right? Questions put pressure on your systems. And you want to encourage that. You want to improve them. And so, the old improv technique, that's great, Sam. And what else?
The thing I noticed is that when you said the no but, it was almost like you could see the people getting smaller and smaller and just the energy in the room. And then when we did the yes and, it was almost the opposite. I mean, everyone's faces were lit up. It was standing taller. It was phenomenal. And just the energy totally shifted.
Yeah. And in that same session too, they kind of walked us through, I'm going to say Gary Keller, Walt Disney's mindset of when he was faced with kind of the obstacles of releasing Fantasia and what he wanted to happen inside of the experience, inside of the movie theater, and kind of his approach of, okay, let's write down all of the rules that currently exist. And on one side, we're sending all the rules on the right-hand side of that piece of paper, write down what if. And that's how you can break through the change and do the innovation. And because of that, like Disney World exists. So I would highly recommend take a look at the TED Talk. Just kind of Google the guy. His name is Duncan Wardell. There's a lot of really cool content on YouTube.
Beautiful. Love that. Did we get everybody? Am I missing somebody? I think I'm missing Jack. I don't know that I've called on him yet. Jack.
It's all good. The biggest thing that I wanted to also bring up, no bias, is that big leadership mega block. Just mainly because we had all of leadership in the room or virtually and seeing the message that's coming from top down and really having that accountability factor for all of our TLs, all of our OPs, all of our MCAs, and to really bond the team together and say, hey, we have one common goal. So I'm not getting in trouble for this because this came from the top down, but hey, we're all one team and nothing is just, hey, oh, it sounds like tech. That's the tech trainer. Oh, it sounds like finance or numbers, or it's just with the MCA. No, we're all the same team and we are definitely speaking the same language. Even if you're not training to the tech, at least you can know enough of it to consult to it, so that if it does come up in the recruiting or retention conversation, we know where our roadmap is. I thought that was huge because Gary did get up on the stage. Gary Keller got up on the stage maybe a couple family reunions ago, and he looked at us and say, don't you dare just have the tech trainer doing everything. And I was like, oh, I love the support. But we know there's some Market Center leadership relationships that have been reignited or bonded during this family reunion. So I really love that session where it's coming from the top down and it's within alignment of what KWI is doing now.
I love that. I love that. Now, before we move on to the next topic, because we are moving closely to our last topic, I do want to ask Kimber her takeaways as well, and I do want to share mine. But before we get to that, I want to go ahead and point out, if you're watching online, which there are still so many of you watching, we appreciate you being here and going on this journey with us here. If you have any questions for anybody that you see here, specifically, personally, whatever it might be, feel free to go ahead and put those in the comments now. We're going to do a quick Q&A right before we wrap up with all the good comments, all the good questions. Yes, it is subjective, and yes, Joe and I will be deciding. That being
long URLs that take up the whole screen.
Yes, all those tracking things in there. I fixed that. We should be there. I also do want to mention, if you go to outfront.kw.com, if you missed anything from there or you want to get a quick deep dive, Outfront's done a really good job of posting several articles that wrap up a lot of the major events that were covered, as well as some of the slides that were there. And of course, here in about a week, we'll get more KWI stuff from them related to the event. Kimber, real quick, what was your biggest takeaway from the event? What's that the one thing that you're going to implement from FR?
The one thing.
The one thing.
Oh gosh, that's so much pressure. I wish I read that book. Just kidding. It's weird.
I think we all have a copy here that we can send to you.
Yeah. So I agree that a lot of the same things that just get like reaffirmed, right? One of the sessions that I went to, it was Cody Gibson, Bobby Motes was on it, Sarah Reynolds. There was a couple other people, and I apologize for leaving their names off. But it was talking about relationships, standards, and systems at scale. And so it definitely looked like, oh, it's for expansion. Why my team went to it is because we are heavily involved with people that are not in our proximity every day. And it was such an amazing session. I know probably a couple of people that are watching right now can chime in on it. However, it was very relatable to everybody. It wasn't just an expansion conversation. And I would say maybe not my entire family reunion, like biggest takeaway, but one of the biggest takeaways from that session was that this is our business right now. There aren't people that we work with on a daily basis are not generally in our proximity. And specifically for me, trying to scale everything with my agents that aren't all in one office. Cody, I think it was Cody that said this. He's like, you can teach something all day to other people, but at the end of the day, you have to do your own push-ups. And that really resonated with me, that Gary has told me these amazing things. Jay, really, most of what I remember is what Jay said. No, I'm kidding. But even this group right here, right? There's this group that had a lot of great sessions and things that I've learned from. I have to do my own push-ups. And so biggest takeaway for you guys, the things that you have learned, what are the push-ups that you're going to do? Because the knowledge by itself in isolation is not going to change anybody's business or life.
Wonderful. I love that. Awesome. So I think that will conclude our one things from this. We are approaching the top of the hour. Of course, if anybody here does have to go, that's fine. I think we're going to continue on just a little bit further with the inspirational morning, some Q&A. With that being said, though, again, those that are watching, please, please, please go ahead and put those questions in the chat now before the deadline comes that I don't have specifically here for you, but the deadline's soon, so act fast, right? All right. So last but not least, certainly not least, we enjoyed on was it Monday or Tuesday? I want to say it was Tuesday. Mo Anderson, of course, taking the stage once again for the inspirational morning. And I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. The best musical accompaniment that they have had in a long time. That a cappella group was like bomb.com. And whoever that audio guy was that was mixing it, if you happen to be watching, you should ask for a raise because that was the best mix.
That was fantastic.
It was so good. But we'll start. We'll kind of do another round. We'll start with Brooke on this one and go counterclockwise. We'll switch it up a little bit.
You don't have to net $1 million to begin to give $1 million. Started us right off, right? I had goosebumps because all of us think we have to get to a certain point before we can give so much. But I've been blessed in my life to have so many people who give back to the community in small ways. And you don't have to be big about it. You just have to do it with heart and start small, and you have to see the needs. And when he ever said you don't have to net $1 million to begin giving $1 million, it doesn't have to be your money. Find the money and get it to give. Blown away. I think that was Russell Fawcett. I don't know if I said Fawcett correctly. The Frenchie in me wants to say it that way. So
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I love that.
Beautiful. Jordan.
Couple of things for me. One, every year I leave that session just in awe of how big of givers we're surrounded with here at Keller Williams. And just how generous and how much of an impact we can have in the world. And then two, when Mo just talked about like, we are the people who shape the culture of the world through Keller Williams, and the leaders and the impact that we can have as a company is incredible. And I started thinking about it just like, okay, if you think of every Keller Williams agent, 180 something thousand people across the globe, all went and shared that kind of an impact of inspirational morning, the things we learned at family reunion with 5 or 10 people. How fast does that impact ripple across the entire globe? And just how much of an impact we can have, I think is incredible. And I think we underestimate that a lot.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. Thoughts, concerns? Let's go to Sarah Herta.
Well, I just was blown away. I mean, as usual, I was like a blubbering idiot. But with the family, with the 11 children, and, you know, I sit there and I think about, it would never really occur to me. And I have to be honest to be like, oh, you know what? If I can't find them a place, why don't we just figure out how to buy a place that they can live in? And, you know, to me, that's a part of, again, when we work with other people and when we invite other people and different types of thinking into our lives, and all of a sudden that becomes a thing of, well, why don't we just buy a place? And that's like, well, wait, I can't buy an extra place. Who can buy an extra place? And then it's like, well, wait, let's talk about how that could work. And you think about, oh, and then I love how Mo just kind of slides in there. Well, you didn't just buy the place. You also added on 2 different bedrooms. And, oh, you didn't just, you know, whatever. And to me, that was just such a beautiful story. And then when he talked about going back and seeing those kids' faces, every single story that they talked about, it was just, to me, opening up my mind that sometimes I get very into what I'm doing. And it's like, okay, I've got my agents, I've got my leadership, I've got all these people I've got to work on and make sure that I'm doing the things every single day. And then I don't always think about all of that out of the box thinking, like, how would I buy a house for a family with, you know, 11 kids? I mean, and I don't think many of us do. And when you sit and think about things like that and you start thinking about, okay, maybe we need to start smaller, but what are the things that we could do every day? And I look at my children and think, what can I instill in them that even if it's just a little thing here and there, and you start to make a difference, you start small, right? What is it? Big is small things done well, right? So that was my takeaway.
Love that. Yeah, true. Very true. Jack Crutchfield Jr.
Yes, sir. So, Sarah, verbatim, you took everything I was going to point out. However, I will just
All
kind
right,
of.
Sam Jackson. Here we go. I'm just
Yeah, can we just stop with after Sarah? That was it.
Mic
Yeah.
drop. Just very short. Just to kind of expound on that, just how much we can tap into our database, we can tap into our SOI of so many people who are willing to help, so many people who are looking for areas of growth within their personal life. Even within, like you said, Sarah, with how can we tap in and how can we buy this together? And that can be a group and being very active in the community. You know, there's a lot of people who's looking to give back, looking to love on the world, because guess what? We're in it together. So I just love the drive and the passion that everyone has at every inspirational morning. And it's just, how can you not be influenced by that? Like it's just commit to one goal or commit to one community service project a year. And then I think as a community, we'll be great.
It's lovely. Wonderful. Wonderful. Sam, it's your turn. Try to up Sarah.
I'm not going to try. I think the biggest thing is, like, we go to family reunion and we talk about, when you go to family reunion, write down a list of things that you're going to take action on. I think you need a special page of notes just for inspirational morning, right? I think that's the time that we kind of wrap up FR, and we may not take our notebook with us, but I would say, like, I know for me personally, next year, I'm going to go there thinking, okay, how am I going to take this and move it back home? And just like what Brooke and Sarah and Jack kind of alluded to, it's making those small changes and starting now, not waiting until you've made it to make an impact. And I think kind of officially, we need to start a petition that I think Mo deserves more than just Red Day. We need like a whole flipping Red Week for her. Something. Her legacy within Keller Williams is just unmatched. Love her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike, you are not being skipped.
So here's the most beautiful part of Inspirational Morning for me, is that we open with prayers from the Muslim faith, the Hindu faith, the Jewish faith, the Buddhist teachings, and the Christian faith, all at the same microphone in the same 30 minutes. If that doesn't tell you how, like, just how inclusive our culture is, how we're looking to really build a community of everyone feeling like they have a safe space to be themselves, I don't know what else can do that. Like, it's incredible. As Penny chimes in.
She's looking for her safe space right now. I love that. Awesome, guys. Any other last thoughts on the Inspirational Morning before Joe? I'll say, Joe, if you want to go through questions, I start a couple in there if you would want to do that. Any other last thoughts on Inspirational Morning?
Yeah, bring a box of tissues, not travel tissues, because that's it. Bring a box of tissues.
Boom. Well, Joe, I will let you kind of lead the Q&A. You guys did a phenomenal job explaining everything. There wasn't too many questions that we had in there. But that being said, Joe.
Yeah, you said you highlighted them?
They're in the comments under starred.
Yeah, I see that. Well, you also starred my phrase "meat and potatoes," brought to you by Evan Ransom. I don't know why that was starred, but
that was for myself, I think.
What's everybody going to go back and listen to that they might have missed this past week? Is there something from your digital experience you're going to go rewatch?
The keynote.
Yeah. The keynote for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's a very informative, quick talker. And so I feel like I need to go back and listen to it so that my brain can catch up. Just me.
I feel like that's something that should be a part of every agent's onboarding going forward, and we should play that in our market centers on loop.
Yeah. All right, this one's less serious, but Chris Orsini wants to know if Jack can narrate his life.
For $300 an hour, anything's possible.
Yeah,
absolutely. Chris, let's talk.
You can find Jack on Cameo. .com. You're there.
That's
I
awesome.
want your cousin from Boston to narrate your life.
Yeah. You'll find next to
Brooke,
you'll find
you
Jack next to Robert De
The
Niro
tunnels.
and Elijah Wood.
Kind of
Brooke, you can narrate my life.
wicked.
There you go.
It was not
Someone, and that someone was Facebook user. I don't know. Which session was the yes and no but from?
Unfortunately, this one was not recorded. This was Gary's private mastermind.
Private
But
master.
you can look up Duncan on YouTube, and he talks a lot about this stuff.
What's his full name?
I don't have it in my notes.
It
Oh.
is Jaurdle is his last name. I'm not going to try and butcher that again.
Wait, throw that back up there. Brooke can narrate my life. Like, Brooke, can you be my my GPS?
My 411.
Like,
No, your actual like Waze voice.
I think Waze allows you to create a custom narration. Could you be my Waze voice?
I might get in a little trouble here and there, for sure. I'll make you smarter.
Cool. That's it.
Wonderful. Good
That's all
deal.
we got question wise, unless you count what I'm assuming is a bot on YouTube.
It took them longer to find us
that's
this
a good
time.
one.
Normally, that's half the comments is just boom, 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 boom. And I want to know whatever that system is. This is interesting. I want to figure out what they're doing.
No, it's not.
A discussion for another time. That being said, I do want to thank everybody here for joining us today and being a part of this. Thank you so much for donating your time, not only to the show, but to all the agents that are watching and will be watching in the future. I did promise this at the very end. If anybody has anything that they would like to plug as far as things they're working on or things people should know about, now is a good time to go ahead and bring that up.
And I want to tie back to being a great market center tech trainer. Right. Guess what? If you don't feel like you're on that path, you might need a coach to accelerate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. And not only that, if you're a market center tech trainer, please, 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 every week, if not every day, have that bond with your TL. Because if your TL is not leveraging recruiting and retention calls and vice versa, then we are at a disadvantage. So make sure you still tap in with your TLs.
Mhm.
Penny?
Penny, any last thoughts, Penny?
What's Sam? Sam, you got final thoughts?
The one time she's quiet.
Kimber, the good news is you can. He's right here.
I just have to unmute. No, I think I'll just do the plug because we're just surrounded by RTTs. It's a very powerful role within KW. And if you are a tech trainer or on that path, lean on these people that are in your region and throughout because they have such a wealth of knowledge, but they also have a good amount of perspective. They're in, I mean, I'll just speak for myself, like they're in different rooms than I am. And so I get a level of perspective from them that I can't get anywhere else, and guidance and leadership. And the RTT MCTT relationship is pretty powerful. And that would be my first stop if I'm trying to grow as a market center tech trainer. This has been sponsored by Jordan Larson.
I'll send you your check later. No, I just have to plug that then because Kimber Walton has been incredible to work with. I think if anyone in the tech space knows her and has watched her the last few years, it's mind-boggling and amazing to watch where she came from, where she is now, and where she's going. And I'm just honored I got to play some tiny little piece in that path.
Let's take over the world, y'all.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, with that being said, that's a great note to end on. Thank you all again for being here. I do appreciate it. Much love to you all. Thank you, Kimber and Joe, as always, for joining me on these wonderful, wonderful Labs Advisors Live sessions. We will be back with regularly scheduled content very, very soon. We will get more information about that out probably sometime next week. So be on the lookout. We are not done. We're actually quickly approaching a 1-year mark for doing in this format, which is wild to think about.
Anniversary
Well, I
clip
think
show.
Your first Labs Advisors Live, Evan, was this recap
Yeah, it was mine
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
this recap
Happy
last
anniversary.
was
okay.
it?
So
We just become 1% better every day.
Awesome. Well, thank you
And
guys.
Brooke doesn't know it yet, but there is going to be a cameo appearance of our presentation that was at Family Reunion on Labs Advisor Live in the coming weeks.
Yes, we already signed you up for one. So
He looks
Put it in
like
your
he's
schedule.
kind of okay with it. So
I'm
we're
okay
going
with
with it.
anything. I'm gonna go with the flow.
Awesome. Brooke,
Cool.
Jordan, Sarah, Jack, Sam, Mike, thank you guys so much once again. Absolutely appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic, phenomenal weekend, and let's crush this 2022.
Bye.